lovers, and welcome to the Liberty Mike podcast, broadcasting from an undisclosed location in the heart of Dixie. I am Michael, and I am here with Liberty Larry.
How's it going?
Doing okay. How are you?
Cold!
Cold?
Cold! Tired of being cold.
Yeah.
It's only been cold for like a day, and I'm already tired of it. I mean, it's been cold on and off, I guess, but...
Yeah. I mean, it is...
It sucks right now, though.
It is December. It's really about time.
You're not wrong, but I don't have to be happy about it.
Isn't it better than hot?
I don't know that it is. I always take off more clothes.
No, there's only so many clothes you can take off. You can always put on more clothes.
I don't know that it works, though.
But on the other hand, cold hurts.
Yeah.
And hot doesn't hurt. Well, I mean, sunburn hurts, but that's a different kind of... That's not hot.
Cold used to not bother me. Like, I'd be running around in this weather with short sleeves and shorts and wouldn't bother me a bit. Mm-hmm. But the older I get, the more it bothers me.
Yeah.
I think my blood's getting thin or something.
Your bones start to hurt.
Yeah, exactly. It sucks getting old, man. That's just all there is to it.
No, you just need to get in shape.
That it would help. I don't
promise
deny.
You, that made a big difference for me.
I bet. I don't doubt it.
Because when I was younger, like, I loved the cold.
Really? Yeah.
Like, we used to fight in the dorms when I was in college, and then afterwards in our apartments, like, of who would turn it lower.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was like your house.
Well, I was going to say, like, you can hang meat in my house right now because we haven't ran the heater yet. So anybody that lives in lower Alabama knows how cold it is in my house.
Yeah. So, and then somewhere along the way, I guess around the time I realized that I couldn't stay in shape sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
The cold started to really bother me.
Yeah.
And then I changed my diet first, and like that didn't make much difference. But when I started getting more exercise in again later and got myself back in shape,
you feel like you can stand the cold better now. I can stand
the cold better now. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's what it is.
Higher metabolism, maybe your body's just producing more heat. So I don't know. I don't have much insulation. There was a time, where I had a little more insulation.
Yeah.
I still have a little.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting old, and there's only so much
you can do, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so my mom's cousin and her husband were in town for Thanksgiving, which was cool. But like, I guess it was a couple of years ago. They drive back and forth essentially between Texas and Florida, Texas, where they live and where their daughter lives, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they stop frequently on the way because we're like roughly in the middle.
That's a nice little stop.
So a couple of years ago, they were in town. We went to lunch as they were passing through. I met them for them and my mom for lunch, and Linda was like, "Oh, Michael, you look good. Have you been working out?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, yeah, I've definitely been getting back in shape." And she said, "Oh, you look real good." I was like, "Well, thanks, but I feel like the skin just doesn't hang on as tight as it used to."
Right. Yeah.
So, and that was years ago. Yeah. Not much closer to 50 now. So, yeah, Thanksgiving was a fairly nice affair in my house. I hear that it wasn't everywhere.
Yeah, it was good at my house. Other than we're busy family, work, and all of that going on. Trying to make time is honestly the most difficult part of my house.
Yeah, but I keep hearing stories of political disputes rising, and
one of some news, which I haven't watched a lot of news the past couple of weeks, but I did see some segment where they were like recommending just don't talk about politics for your Thanksgiving and blah, 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 blah. And like I say, I mean, we have a pretty big family when they all get together. Like that stuff's coming up. Yeah. And there's people in my family firmly on either side of those arguments. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we get into some discussions, but it's never anything ugly or nothing like that. I mean, we all kind of realize we're all kind of we all kind of want the same things. We just have different paths to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely have my feelings, obviously. So, well, and that's the other thing is like, I'm so outside, my beliefs are so outside of what both sides are.
Yeah.
That I find myself on both sides of arguments,
Yeah.
depending on what we're talking
Being
about.
attacked by everybody. That's,
Exactly.
No, I can empathize.
Yeah,
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And my family, well, politics and religion and like all the topics that you're supposed to shy away from were just general dinner conversation in my house.
Oh, absolutely.
Growing up. And so those things aren't really avoided. I don't know. I guess we don't really talk politics as much as we used to because a bunch of the family is just kind of disengaged from politics generally. And there is concern about upsetting other sides and what have you. But we're all so independent that there's plenty to argue about.
Oh yeah.
in my family, but it's never really caused a problem. But I'm hearing, even on the, I guess everybody's probably heard that Joy Reid rant about excising family members that you disagree with and so forth, and like just don't go to Thanksgiving with if your parents voted for Trump, then just don't even go to Thanksgiving, all that kind of thing. And I'm hearing a lot of stories about people doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple on No Agenda that they'd read, like notes that they'd read where men came home to notes from their wives saying, because you voted for Trump, I don't ever want to see you again.
I want a divorce. Yeah. I've heard of some. I mean, apparently that's going on. I can't imagine. Like, that's just
it makes me sad that people are that manipulable. Yeah. Like if you believe that like all this mess about that, Trump's against women and so forth. I don't know. You're not actually paying any attention to what's going on. You're just listening to CNN and MSNBC, and that's it.
They're listening to their TV. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's what it is. And you're right. I mean, it's more CNN and like those left-wing sides of the TV. Yeah. But I mean, like I say, if you're not digging in any deeper than that, then I mean, you'll believe some crazy stuff.
If you think Trump's against women, just open your eyes.
Yeah.
Like just look at his
at his picks.
Yeah, his cabinet picks.
Yeah.
I'm kind of amazed by that. And so I went on a date the week before Thanksgiving, and nice enough girl and everything. She's on the left, and we started talking about the election a little bit. And I said, well, honestly, I prefer Trump to Kamala Harris. I think Kamala Harris is far more dangerous to this country than Trump is. And like, I don't think well of Trump particularly, but definitely less dangerous, it seems to me, than Kamala Harris is. I said, I would have picked Trump just on the Ukraine issue alone, honestly. Yeah. But I said, in the end, like I couldn't bring myself to vote for the guy. I ended up voting for the Libertarian candidate to try and give us at least a little bit of a boost. And I know that I'm the one out there all the time saying that you shouldn't vote for a candidate you don't believe in.
Yeah.
I didn't really believe in Chase, but the truth is that his politics align very closely with mine. Like his policy positions.
Yeah, if you just go policy
identical.
by policy, there's not a whole lot of space between you and Chase.
Yeah.
But not a lot.
Yeah. So in the end, like that seems like a better pick to me, at least.
Yeah.
Besides it not voting for somebody you don't believe in is trumped by the rule of never vote for a major party candidate when you have another option.
Yeah, all right.
That's one of my other rules. And don't vote for an incumbent. There you go.
Yeah.
So I said, but in the end, like I couldn't bring myself to vote for Trump. And she said, oh, that makes me feel better, actually. And I just kind of let that one go. But I thought, why would it matter?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like at all.
It shouldn't, yeah.
I mean, for you to believe, I don't know. I guess this is old, like these ideas. And both sides have demonized people that don't agree with them. You think back of the moral right, back in the 80s and early 90s. particularly, and the left, like ever since then, more or less. The idea that the other side is evil.
Yeah.
That they're just bad people. Like, we disagree politically, therefore that person is a bad person. I just don't know how you get there.
Yeah.
Like that the person that I vote
there
for
by listening to a lot of TV.
I guess, but I mean the idea that the person I vote for is some kind of reflection on my character seems odd, and that you would make assumptions on that before you know me.
Yeah.
Too.
Because all of these guys are bad. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, it's not like Biden's a good person or Trump's a good person, or I mean, you just start kind of going down the list of whatever your politician is. I'm probably named 3 that I think are decent people.
Yeah. Speaking of, so Biden pardoned Hunter.
Yeah.
This is a thing this is another one that blows my mind, that people actually believe that he wouldn't.
Well, that's what's so crazy. And they were like demonizing Trump because during the campaign over, that he's not even pardoning his son and Trump's this horrible. It's crazy.
Well, that's exactly what it was about, though.
Yeah.
He was always going to pardon Hunter. I think we said that on this podcast. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
But he was always going to pardon Hunter. It was just, it allowed them to have a campaign talking point that Biden believes in the rule of law and Trump doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what the whole thing was about. And what really amazes me is the statement that was released saying that that Hunter was only targeted because he was Biden's son by Biden's Justice Department, right?
Yeah, right.
And that which is complete fabrication to begin with. Like the IRS guys, the whistleblowers that came out about Hunter's case way back.
Yeah.
They were saying like nobody could have this kind of evidence against them and not be prosecuted.
Yeah.
Like it would be impossible not to prosecute the guy with the evidence that was available.
Right.
And so, but then he goes on to say that that his son was treated unfairly by the Justice Department and that the Justice Department is corrupt and so forth. And to think that he would make those statements considering the lawfare that's been leveled against Donald Trump leading up to the election is just kind of inconceivable.
Right.
I just read The Princess Bride, by the way, so that word might come out.
A little more than it would ordinarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inconceivable.
Yeah.
So, but it is funny now to listen to all the supercuts of everybody saying what a great man Joe Biden was. His respect for the rule of law and the justice system in this country, so that he would never pardon his son Hunter. It's funny to listen to now for a couple of reasons. Like, one, I find myself musing about whether these people in the media actually believed that he would never.
There's no way they
pardon
that.
I wouldn't be surprised, actually.
Maybe, I don't know. It seems so simple. Like, he's going to do that, especially if he loses the election.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't lose the election, he's doing it after the election.
No.
So
if he doesn't lose the election, he just waits for Kamala to take office and she pardons him because, then he would have kept his word.
He can keep his integrity.
Yeah. But that Trump isn't. And apparently it was the day after he did the pardoning, the day after Kash Patel was named the FBI director.
Yeah.
Or who will be Trump's FBI director. I don't know if that's just a coincidence or not. The other thing is that the language of the pardon is so broad and expansive, that essentially any federal case that could be made for anything that Hunter Biden did from 2014 to the present can't be made anymore.
Yeah.
And what I think it's really about is self-preservation. I think once you start digging into that stuff,
there's layers, and it's going to go deeper and deeper and deeper,
and find its way to Joe at some point.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know that he cares so much about Hunter. I think he's
Well,
He's protecting himself.
it is wild to me that Trump was impeached for trying to look into what he was just pardoned, what Hunter was just pardoned for.
Yeah.
Like, that's just wild to me in itself.
Well, it was a quid pro quo with Zelensky that in order for Ukraine to get the weapons that the U.S. was going to send, that he would have to look into Hunter's actions with Burisma.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the impeachment was about. The other part of that blows my mind is that he was impeached for not sending weapons to Ukraine. Oh my gosh.
We live in an upside down world, man.
Yeah. It's insane.
But I would just like to say, I mean, for somebody to believe that Biden wasn't going to pardon Hunter is just crazy to me, because a father would do anything to protect the son. Like, I'm just saying, like, I mean, I've got 2 kids, and I'm telling you right now, if I was in a position of any kind of power to fix some problem they had, that's happening.
Well, sure, but you're not a sociopath.
Well, there's that.
I mean, Hunter has always just been a political pawn for Joe Biden, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
I don't know. Actually, I guess he keeps him close, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But
yeah,
he brings him up whenever he can. The other part of it that's just insane is that Joe Biden made a career in the Senate out of throwing the book at people exactly like Hunter.
Yeah, and I saw something recently. I guess he's like not done a whole lot of pardons.
No,
As far as presidents go with pardons, like, he's on the low end of that spectrum.
Yeah.
Which is also wild that, that he pardoned his son, but these other people that's went through the protocols to try to get a pardon have not been able to.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
And that's the other thing, like I say, especially like just me kind of putting myself in those shoes. Like, dude, I would be pardoning everybody. Like, I would have a whole commission of like nonviolent, pardon people that nonviolent, no victimless crimes.
Yeah.
I'm pardoning everybody I can. Like obviously violent stuff. That's not. I feel a little differently about that. But yeah, like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, on the subject of Law and Order, Daniel Penny, do you remember this guy? He got arrested for choking the guy to death on the subway in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
The guy that was probably had a psychological disorder, probably on drugs, and was like actively threatening people on the train and acting erratically and like threatening to kill people and so forth on the train. Yeah. And this guy, I think he's a former Marine, definitely military service, but I think it was Marine. Yeah. And he ends up choking the guy to death.
Yeah.
And was arrested. And his trial's going on right now. And I guess it's actually at the end of the trial because they're trying to come to a verdict. There was news today that the primary charge, which was second-degree manslaughter, was dropped by the judge. Was thrown out by the judge because they couldn't come to a decision on it. The jury couldn't come to a decision on it, and they couldn't make a decision on the second charge because the 2 charges are incompatible. So the first charge was second-degree manslaughter, and essentially if they found him not guilty of second-degree manslaughter, they could still find him guilty of negligent homicide.
Gotcha.
All right. So since they couldn't come to an agreement on the second-degree manslaughter, the judge just threw out that charge and said, all right, just figure out if you think it's negligent homicide. Yeah. But reading the articles about this, I was just kind of amazed at there's like a concession by the prosecution that he was protecting people, but that he protected them too much.
Yeah.
Essentially. And I don't know.
The whole thought of that just like blows my mind. Like, if you're going to concede the fact that the guy was a danger, then you have to concede the fact that you got to take care of that situation.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, like, you may not ideally he wouldn't have killed the guy, but we're not dealing in an ideal situation.
Yeah.
like this, none of this is perfect, you know. Hopefully they let him off.
Yeah, I hope so too, but I don't.
It's New York, so
Yeah.
you know. Of course, and then again, it's New York, so a lot of people on the jury may have had
Similar
situations.
experiences, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, it actually kind of looks like it's going to end up in a hung jury and a mistrial, and they'll just start over with a new jury.
yeah,
This poor guy getting
maybe.
dragged
I
through
mean,
on
you
this.
think that the prosecutions, that a lot of times when that happens, they just give up the second round.
Well, maybe.
Like
I think
they
they're
feel like
trying
if
to
they
make
an example.
an example of him.
Yeah. Well, I hope they make one that, you know,
Yeah.
I hope that he gets off and makes an example of that.
We're kind of bouncing all over the place here, but then like the big news for this week is this United Healthcare CEO murdered in cold blood in Manhattan.
Yes.
Have you seen the video on this?
I have not.
Really?
No, I
wow,
haven't
I'm
consumed
surprised.
as much
It's, like,
media
all
as I
over.
would like to this week. I did see the picture yesterday that they released of the guy.
Yeah, the person that showed it to me originally was like, this is a professional hit. And I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind
don't look professional to you.
Well, it's like right under a security camera, and there's a witness standing right there. She runs off. I mean,
Yeah.
But what happens is that in the security camera, you see the CEO walking away from the camera, and this guy comes out from behind a parked car and has what looks to me like a small caliber pistol with a homemade suppressor on it.
Really?
And just starts shooting the guy in the back.
Wow. No.
And he has a jam. Okay, so this is what I'll concede on this. He has a jam. He knows the tap rack bang. Yeah.
Yeah.
He clears the jam fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So he knows how to use the firearm.
Yeah.
He's had some experience with the firearm, but like he's point blank standing behind him.
Yeah.
It takes him several shots to kill him, like even with a small caliber. Like at that range, if you're a professional, you're just shooting the guy in the back of the head.
I was gonna say you're going for the headshot, right?
Yeah. So I don't think so. The other thing is that, you know, a professional probably wouldn't do it in front of a witness underneath a security camera.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, a professional would do it. I don't know, in a less public place.
Yeah,
I guess.
it should probably be a little more subtle.
Yeah.
Now, when I said this to the guy who showed me the video, he was like, no. Because I said, look, my theory of what this is that it's some guy who's, you know, wife, daughter, husband, you know, brother,
Relative.
You know, father, somebody got screwed over by United Healthcare.
Yeah.
And he's just getting his revenge, and he probably has a service record. Like he probably was in the military or whatever. That's why he handles the gun well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's my guess.
That makes sense. Like that's kind of where what I believe.
And he says, well, that's what a lot of people would think looking at this. Maybe that's what they want you to think.
Then I'd have to ask.
It's the 4D chess thing. Like,
who's they?
Yeah. Well, okay. So at the same time, there's some stuff with some of the transparency that may come through with the new administration.
Yeah.
United Healthcare had some issues with government insurance, with Medicare, Medicaid, I believe.
Yeah.
That guy would have been over that stuff at the time.
Yeah.
So it could be other people in the organization trying to make sure that he doesn't talk about something.
Yeah.
You know, that he's not deposed and gives out some information that they don't want out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's conspiracies to be found, sure, because the guy's a powerful person.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to have enemies. But I think that the more likely is that, I mean, United Healthcare, I saw something that they refused like 32% of claims or something like that.
It's like nearly a third of the claims submitted to them are denied.
Yeah, that's... Well, and you heard about what was written on the bullets, right? Or on the shell casings.
Yeah, but I don't remember what the words were.
It was like deny, depose. What was the other one? It was 3. Deny, depose. That's going to bug me now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Defend. Deny, depose, defend.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, that's what it was. So yeah, it's the whole deal's wild though. I wonder just what this has, what if this is going to have any greater ripple effects. The
Well,
fact that
this is what's happened since, though, is that like usually when something like this happens, kind of no matter who it is, unless it's somebody that's really hated,
yeah,
and nobody knows who this guy was. Nobody knew this guy's name. I don't think we've mentioned it.
we
actually,
yeah,
Brian Thompson, but it's not relevant.
yeah,
Actually, like his name's not important because the guy himself
yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah,
Sorry, I mean I don't mean any offense to his family or whatever, but like it's not important who he was, it's what he did.
yeah.
Like his job is what matters. And there's been, usually online after something like this, people's reactions would generally be, oh man, this is awful. Like, oh, I can't believe this kind of thing happens on the streets of America, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But that's not what
No,
the
it's
reaction
not.
online has been, I saw, you almost had to laugh at it. That he needs prior authorization to get thoughts and prayers or something like that.
Yes.
And like,
oh yeah, his life insurance company has the opportunity to do the most funny thing ever.
So
like, yeah.
it's not, it has exposed like a real hatred of his industry
Yeah,
that I think we all knew was there probably, but it's
which is there for good reason, by the way.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's kind of incredible how people have reacted to this, with such venom.
Well, it's because most people this has touched most people in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, getting screwed over by an insurance company is something. I mean, this is for your health care, but insurance companies screw people over all the time.
Yeah, and it's always, you got to think about when it happens too. It's like at the worst possible time in their lives.
Well, yeah.
That they have to, they don't have the energy or the attention to fight about it.
Yeah.
Because of whatever terrible thing is going on that's being denied coverage.
Exactly.
As long as things are, normal little health issues, no problems, and you're paying these. I mean, gosh, my healthcare, and this is just for a single male. My health insurance monthly costs, thankfully, are shared by my company.
Yeah.
But I think, I'm trying to think of what I pay out of every pay period towards it, but it's over $1,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shoving that myself. So,
You're covering your family, right?
Yeah, most of my wife has her own.
Oh,
but I've got the kids are on mine though.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean it's trying to do. That's like $300 a week, so whatever that runs up to.
$1,200 a month roughly.
Yeah.
So yeah, mine's over $1,000 a month, just for me.
Yeah, and that's why people are so angry. Is you're paying all of this money out to not get what you need.
Right.
And it's the same way with car insurance, with homeowner insurance. Like all of these are the same. It's the same thing.
But those other things don't cost as much.
No.
Health insurance is incredibly expensive.
Homeowners insurance is pretty expensive.
That's true. That's true.
At least where I live.
No, I'm.
You're right here. I know.
I'm closer to the bay than you. You should have seen what my insurance costs were when I had the condo on the bay.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah, and that was a long time ago.
That-
It's only went up since then.
Yeah, it has. Well, and so what I remember mostly about health insurance is that, I mean, we could go down another
you're pretty
rabbit
well
hole
versed
here
on
on
this. Yeah.
Affordable Care Act, like how much health insurance costs went up after that and so forth. But that's not really the point.
Yeah.
The other thing that people are looking at, or I mean, I guess they don't have to be, but like if you go to Open Secrets, you'll find that just United Health Group, which also owns Optum Healthcare, by the way.
Okay.
So they not only have a huge insurance company, they have a huge medical services business
Okay.
as well.
I wasn't aware of this.
And pharmacy services and physician services and like little hospitals and the little doc in the box urgent care places and so on.
They're just like some massive conglomerate, man.
Yeah, they have a big industry at all levels
Of the spectrum.
Yeah, it's like this, vertical business plan that they have where they have the insurance, the pharmaceuticals, the provider services, the facilities. Like they own a bunch.
So
of this
I'm not much on like breaking up monopolies, but this kind of feels like this is like a monopoly.
I mean, it's not
Okay.
because there's a lot of competition. I mean, Optum doesn't own anything around here.
Yeah.
I mean, everything around here is owned by South Alabama or Infirmary Health.
Yeah, but if they have the pharmaceuticals and they have the insurance, wouldn't those two have to be like negotiating with one another?
Yeah, and actually, I think that they also pay like the in-between people, the middlemen that Trump's always talking about getting rid of.
Yeah.
What are they called? The pharmacy benefit officers or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
I think they have those in their employ also.
See, that's wild to me that they could own that much of us, even if they don't have like enough to be considered a monopoly. Like, that's considered something though? What would that be? I don't know.
Corrupt.
Well, yeah. Okay.
I mean, like, they set the prices, discount them for themselves, and charge higher prices to every other group. And so, I mean, who knows? Like, I couldn't imagine how the thing functions as a whole.
There's no telling, like I say. Well, it doesn't function with their current CEO anymore. So
no. So, in like a long time ago, I was an EMT. And then when I quit my job as an EMT, the ambulance company I was working for offered me a job as in their billing department. And I eventually became their billing manager. And what I can tell you is that it is kind of incredible, like the kind of claims that are denied.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some times where I was absolutely convinced that at least some of those companies, their policy was deny everything on the first submission.
Yeah.
I mean, just make them go through the bureaucracy again, like fight and fight and fight.
Deny, depose, defend?
Something like that. So I never got deposed, but I mean, but I did, like, to me, it was kind of a logic game. Like, I actually enjoyed getting on the phone and arguing with insurance companies about whether something should be paid or not.
Imagine you'd be pretty good at that too.
Yeah, I would read their policies to them and get them to admit that this was covered, and then read our notes to them and say, okay, so now explain to me again why this was denied. And so it was, that was, like I said, it was like a logic game to me, and it was kind of fun. But it was very time consuming.
Oh, I bet.
And there were definitely moments where people ended up holding the bag with a huge balance
that they should
for an ambulance service that probably should have been covered.
Yeah.
I mean, now it was an outlier and probably on the fringes if I couldn't argue for why it should be covered. Like if I couldn't make a case enough for why it should be covered that the patients ended up with the responsibility, it was probably pretty questionable. But like, you don't always know what's going on when you call an ambulance.
Well, exactly.
So because it turned out to be nothing doesn't mean that they weren't justified in calling the ambulance in the first place. So, you ran into some problems like that.
I've had employees over the years tell me if they have seizures or things like that, like, do not call an ambulance. Like if I go into a seizure, do not call an ambulance. Like, stick my wallet in my mouth and lay me on the ground.
Yeah.
So
I believe it.
Which is scary to me because, like, I don't particularly want to do that. Like,
I'm not going to let you bite my wallet.
Right.
You got important stuff in there.
Bunch of credit cards that don't work.
So what I was going to say, though, is that if you look into opensecrets.org, you find that United Healthcare alone, or United Health Group, that's how I got on that tangent, right? Has spent $100 million on lobbying in the last 25 years.
Really?
They've spent less on direct contributions to campaigns, like significantly less, like $25 million on direct contributions to campaigns, but $100 million in lobbying.
Yeah.
And that's just United Health Group.
That's crazy.
So there's a lot of money going into this to people in government to make sure that they can continue to get away with denying more than they should.
Yeah.
Not providing the services that they're contracted to provide.
Yeah, that they're being paid for. So,
I mean, I guess that's all I have on that. I don't think that it was a professional hit. I think it's some guy that got screwed over, or somebody in his family got screwed over, and he's just, a vigilante here.
well, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see some more of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that we should. I'm not saying I wish for that, but like I do wonder if this is the beginning of something. So, time will tell.
I hope not.
I mean, I hope not too.
If it's the beginning of anything, I hope it's a realization by
Insurance companies that they need to do better.
and government that if they're going to regulate the industry, that they need to do it right.
Well, yeah, and without getting into too much, like Alabama's got some real problems with that. As far as like they regulate the insurance, like auto is a big one in Alabama. Where they regulate that industry, but they don't like enforce anything in that industry. It's a mess, dude.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of friends get in car accidents and not be able to be paid from the insurance company, and then it's hard to get a lawyer because there's no money in it for the lawyer, and because they should have just paid the thing, but they're just like, the insurance company is just like, we don't have to. Nobody's gonna make us.
Yeah, I mean the medical field already has. There's problems going after people in the medical field through the legal system, through the judicial system anyway.
Yeah.
You remember, like, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time or go into great detail about my dad's problems, but he had a doctor that completely screwed up a surgery.
Yeah.
That did some real damage to him, and was apparently aware that he'd done the damage and just like sewed him up and sent him home.
Wow.
And it ended up causing some real problems in the long term for my dad. And the attorneys were like, he eventually was able to go back to work, so we can't show enough damages to make it worthwhile to go after the guy.
Yeah. It's crazy.
For malpractice.
Yeah.
And this was, like a real just kind of negligence error.
Yeah.
It wasn't, something that went wrong.
Yeah.
It was this guy actively screwed up, knew it, and didn't inform anybody.
And it just didn't mention it to anybody. Yeah. Wow.
And still couldn't show enough damages to go after him for malpractice. So
yeah,
there's some problems there already.
Yeah.
And the other side of that is because there's so many frivolous malpractice suits about things that just went wrong because you can't control everything.
Yeah.
The insurance costs for healthcare facilities are so high that's part of the factor of why service costs are so high.
Yeah. Whole industry just needs an overhaul.
Yeah, well, he might get one.
I hope so.
A cat's going crazy behind you.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. Jumping up on stuff and scratching and making weird noises and running the other direction. I don't know.
I have that effect on animals.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to talk really briefly about Pam Bondi and Kash Patel.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Kash Patel. What do you know about Kash Patel?
Not a whole lot. Like, I done a brief Google search when you sent me those names, but nothing jumped out at me as this person was, I don't know. Not a whole lot jumped out at me.
Okay. Well, named as the FBI director for Trump, all I have really heard is that he said that he was going to shut down the Hoover building that has 7,000 employees,
that
apparently.
Is insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
And then move him to St. Louis or something.
Hey, more power to him.
Now, I think that was said tongue in cheek. I don't think that he's
gonna do that.
Really serious about that, but I like where his head's at.
Yeah, right.
And if you want to reduce some of the fluff, that's a way to do it, because there's a lot of people that of those 7,000 employees working in D.C. that if they were told they were getting transferred to St. Louis, would probably just quit.
Yeah, I would imagine. Even though that's part of working for the FBI, like, I mean,
yeah, you get moved around. It's like being in the Army.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, you get a little bit more say in things than you do in the Army, but
Yeah.
not a lot. My dad took a deal while he was working in New York. They had what they called the 5-year plan. And actually, I guess when he first got in, every agent had to serve some period of time in the 3 big offices, which is like LA, New York, Chicago or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And I guess DC be
I
on
was
that list
fixing to
now,
say,
but
DC not on that list?
I don't think
Sounds
it was
pretty
at the
big
time.
to me.
Or maybe, I guess that's like a prestige office though.
Yeah,
and
you
the other
probably
ones
gotta-
are just like
Yeah.
rough.
I was going to say, you got to probably rub some elbows to get into that DC office.
Yeah. So he, and while he was in New York, they had the 5-year plan, which said that if you spent 5 years in the New York office, you could get transferred out to like wherever you wanted.
Oh, nice.
They didn't follow through on that.
Oh, really?
So I remember very early on, like going through, I guess like a lot of these military and law enforcement guys, they trade pins around and so forth.
Yeah.
The little like
lapel pins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had one that was like, it was an apple with a screw going through it, and it had the number 5 on it. And I was like, what is this? And then he explained it to me. Well, when I went to New York, they said that if you served 5 years in the New York office, that you could transfer out to wherever you wanted to go.
Yeah.
He said, but they ended up not honoring that agreement. And so this pin represents screwed by the 5-year plan in the Big Apple.
Nice.
So then he took a transfer to wherever they would get him out of New York, and we were in San Juan.
Oh, wow.
Which is also not a great office.
I would imagine that's not where you really want to be either.
But anyway, I'm interested to see what this Kash Patel, he does sound like kind of an outsider from the little bits that I've heard.
Yeah.
I mean, what he was talking about shutting down the Hoover building, he said, and have it as a museum to the deep state or something
Yes.
like that. So I don't know.
Like I say, I like a lot of these picks. I think he's good. And there's been a lot of screeching in the media about this guy, so maybe he'll be pretty good.
That's a good sign.
That's a good sign. Like
Yeah.
I'm taking that as a win. Like
I should have pulled the clip. I was listening to this is weeks ago now because we missed a week, but there was a report about how terrible Tulsi Gabbard was.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And they're going through all of these things, very pearl clutching about how terrible she was, that she had all these beliefs and did all of these things. And I'm listening to it and I'm going like, this is exactly why I want her in this position. Like, what's wrong with you people? Like, why aren't you seeing this at all? Like completely opposite.
Yeah. Well,
is what
I've had
seeing.
a lot of those moments with a lot of these picks where they start naming off all this stuff like it's the most horrible thing. I'm like, I don't know. I heard a bunch of wins there. Like, I don't know what
that
you're
sounds
talking
great
about.
to me. So then we have this Pam Bondi character, probably a better HE pick than Matt Gaetz. She's worked in Florida for a long time, very well respected, etc.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the clip. I went hunting for this clip that I heard, where she was talking about the protests on college campuses about the Israel war.
For Israel? Okay. Yeah.
And she says that there really should be some legal consequences to these people that are identifying with Hamas. And, this isn't just protesting for the Palestinians. They're identifying with Hamas, and that they should be, kicked out of
Waterboarded?
school and deported back to their home country. And if they're Americans, there should be legal consequences and so forth.
Wow. Okay.
And I was thinking about this, and I thought, yeah, that's completely and totally unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about here is legally protected speech.
Yeah.
And we're not at war with Hamas.
Yeah.
Like in fact, technically, the United States isn't at war anywhere.
I was going to say, yeah, if you want to go by
We have no
technically.
war declarations with anybody. So there are no enemies,
Yeah.
legally speaking,
Yeah.
of the United States in the world. But even if we were at war with Hamas,
Yeah.
then it's still legally protected speech to identify with the enemy.
Yeah. Right.
Like, you don't have to agree with it, that's for sure. But
yeah.
but it's legally
Yeah,
protected speech.
You're not giving aid and comfort.
Right. I
Right.
mean, yes, there's supposed to be some kind of physical act involved there.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting at. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just
like
speaking
speech
out.
speech doesn't cover that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that bothers me.
Yeah, I don't like the sounds of that.
But it just falls into that same theme that we ran into last time with like a bunch of protect Israel first
Yeah.
picks.
Well, and even the people that we like that he's picked are pretty pro-Israel.
Yeah.
Like I say, that's
Tulsi.
Tulsi, RFK.
Yeah.
Like I say, a lot of them. That just comes with the territory. It's just what it is.
Yeah, if you get a huge campaign funding from big Israel supporters, then that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wonder, so I just, I'm about like, when you came in, I was like 12 pages from the end of this book.
Oh. Sorry.
Should have given me a little longer, but I've been reading Gordon Wood's book about the radicalism of the American Revolution.
Oh, okay.
And I was thinking about whether we are going through another kind of revolution now.
I mean, I would very much argue that we are. Like
That, I think there seems to be something of an upheaval in the way government is supposed to function in American life, being led here by Donald Trump's administration. Now, I don't know that Donald Trump is really like some kind of mastermind of this or anything.
Oh, no.
But just the way the system has been corrupted over time, there's a real backlash against that, and it seems that he's putting people, like, first off, he's not just rewarding his party.
No.
In this, and he's choosing a bunch of political outsiders that have railed against the way the system has been corrupted, and I wonder if we're going to see some real change in the activities or the intrusions of government into everyday life.
Well, I try not to be too optimistic with these things because you'll end up disappointed.
Right.
But I think you're right. Like if Trump serves his full next term and sticks with a lot of these appointments that he's made, both of those are pretty big ifs as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But if those two things happen, we will come out of this term here a different country.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that. Now, once again, Trump is a wild card. A lot of these picks that we like may not last 6 months or a year.
Yeah, you have Horton's Law to contend with there.
Exactly.
That all presidents will abandon all their good promises and keep all their bad promises.
Yeah.
But
I do worry.
I would love to see it just for once go the other way. That people like Tulsi and RFKJ keep their jobs and Marco Rubio loses his.
Yeah. And I think that there's a good chance for that. I really feel like and this is all wishful thinking, but like I'm really hoping that the picks that we like are going to be the ones that stick around, because I feel like those picks are more of where Trump is really at. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I'd like to believe that. I don't know the man, so I don't know, but I would like to think that. But I do worry about the JFK scenario here, where the powers that be just absolutely will not allow what he's trying to do to be done. Yeah. The problem is they can't assassinate them all. I mean, you start looking at it like,
if J.D. Vance steps in there, is that going to change things very much?
Well, not as far as like
those kind of selections.
Not as far as the figurehead is concerned, but I mean, like they start picking off some of those Tulsi or RFK I'm afraid that what you're going to see is, and I really I pray that this is not what happens, but I am worried that they're going to fight them as far as getting the nominations and getting the jobs, and then once they're in there, start taking other types of action to remove them, and by any means necessary. So setting them up for something, or
that's what we saw in his last term.
Exactly,
with some of his best picks got lawfared out.
Yeah,
or just accused out.
Accused out of, yeah. So, I mean, that's going to be the playbook. The question is, how far does it go? You know, so.
Yeah. Well, we're on the edge of something. I feel like.
I hope so, because we're due for something good.
Yeah, yeah. It's about time that something good happened.
Right.
I mean, I do see some real possibilities that we see a real change, like a reduction in the corruption of government. And that could go completely the other direction too.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think that Trump particularly is above corruption or anything. But there seems to be a real possibility that there could be a change in the status quo, like a significant change in the status quo that could be good for regular Americans and not just those connected people at the top.
Yeah.
And that would be amazing.
Would be. This country deserves something like that. I saw something the other day. They were, I think they were talking about the person that's going to be the new Fed chair, and this person was just kind of talking about them and like what they may do and that type of thing. But the thing that really kind of struck me is that this guy was saying that, you know, that people got behind with the inflation. And like me and you, we like everybody listening to this podcast has seen that and experienced that. Like nobody is in a, not nobody, but nobody you know more than likely is in a better position now than they were before the inflation. And that the Fed, and this guy was arguing that the Fed needs to do something to help the American people catch up. Whether it's what he was actually, he didn't say he didn't really talk about reversing inflation, but he talked about a couple of mechanisms that could be used to try to help the American people. And he is right. Like there needs to be something done to help people catch up. And he was talking about what the Fed could do to raise wages. And like, but you've got the same look that I had listening to him. Like anything that the Fed does is going to make things worse, not better.
It's got
like
ripple effects.
Yeah. And it's just interesting. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms though.
These like little perturbations in the market itself that are unnatural, that it just causes problems in the long run.
Well, and when he was talking, what it made me think of is like the best way to like really help the American people catch up would be to get government out of the way. Yeah. Like that's what you would want to do. And the first thing that jumps out at me, which Trump has mentioned, not in great detail, but he has talked about, do away with the income tax. Yeah. That would do so many things. It would for one, it would do exactly what he was saying and help the American people catch up. Like that would be a huge pay increase across the board. And a lot of people that are kind of out of the job market or not really interested would get in it, even for jobs that they wouldn't ordinarily take, because now that Starbucks job is paying a little more than it did,
20% more.
Exactly. Yeah. So it would get more people into the market. It would be good for the country.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing that he's talking about is getting out of the way of crypto. Yeah. Helping protect crypto. Now, I have my doubts about like government getting involved in crypto, what that really means. Yeah. But
the crypto markets have some opinion on it because they're going crazy right now.
Well, they might be less happy about it if it ended up working out. Like even if the government actually stayed out of the way, because just getting, like making it a usable currency would stabilize it. Yeah. So a lot of people in crypto, the thing that they like about it is its volatility, because it's it's an investment mechanism for them. Yeah. But in order for it to become a currency, like a usable currency, it has to be stable. Yeah. And if they really did get out of the way and make it easier for crypto to be used in common transactions, it might stabilize the coin and actually make it so that it became a currency and free people from the fiat currency of the U.S. dollar. Yeah. And I think that would be a good thing. Now, I still think that Bitcoin isn't actually worth anything.
Yeah, you're one of those.
It doesn't. Yes.
Yes, you're one of those. Okay.
It's just like the idea that it's digital gold or whatever, virtual gold. That's ridiculous. Yeah. it's not backed by anything. So it's just another fiat currency.
It's backed by the blockchain.
Like the idea that it's rare doesn't in and of itself make it valuable.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
It doesn't have any utility.
I mean, I've been skeptical.
Like gold and silver have utility outside of their use as specie.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm at with as far as like investing goes. Like I like the metal market. Like that's just where I'm at. And I'm a big fan of Bitcoin.
Yeah, gold's worth about twice as much as it was when I bought a bunch a few years ago.
Oh yeah. That's to me that's just a market. As long as you're in for the long haul, you're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Bitcoin, but I do agree.
I like
with
the idea.
You. Yeah, but I do agree with
a decentralized currency is better than a government fiat currency.
Oh, yeah.
So don't misunderstand. I mean, fiat currency isn't worth anything either.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not making a
judgment. I can't make a fire with my dollar bills, though.
Yeah, at the very least, it can be used as tough paper, right? I can clothe myself in dollar bills. I can stuff it in my shoes when I'm freezing, which you might consider going out the door here.
I might.
But
just take all my dollar bills out of my wallet and stick them
whereas
in my shoes.
Bitcoin itself doesn't have any value.
Yeah.
And of course, if you have power or grid or telecom problems or whatever, then it's worse than useless.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. I'm not. I like the idea of it. I'm not on board with it at this point.
Yeah.
But there is a possibility here that Trump could make some changes that kind of free people up from the American fiat currency.
Yeah.
And I think that would be generally positive.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah. I'm interested in what goes on in the next 4 years. I'm like really curious. We got a chance to, it's like one of those knife edge things. You can fall off either side. So
yeah, exactly.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And on that happy note, I suppose we'll close out. We didn't talk about being the Liberty wing of the MAGA movement. Maybe some other time.
Yeah. I think we'll. That's definitely a conversation for the future.
Yeah, we should probably do that after our next county party meeting. After we have some discussions with some people why they think that.
Yeah.
Like get a little bit more detail than what you get on Facebook or whatever. But
if anybody shows up.
Yeah, maybe those people just won't.
I hope that's not the case.
I hope not too.
I truly hope not, but I do worry.
Any of you Baldwin County libertarians that are worried about that and are still listening to this podcast? I mean, we haven't been you've been a general supporter of Trump. I have, but anyway, I hope you show up to the next thing and we get to talk about it. And if not, I think you pretty much all have my number.
Yeah, right.
And if not, Michael@thelibertymike.com. You can always find me there. Yep. And, we're on Facebook and iTunes and YouTube and Podbean.
Yep.
And you can like and share, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. I like word of mouth.
Yeah.
And we need more people listening. It'd be nice. It would make me feel better about the amount of time that I devote to this thing.
Yeah, right.
If we had more people listening. Although I don't really know how many people we have listening now, but
yeah,
it could be more.
I feel like it could be more. Right?
It'd definitely be more. And so, I mean, we said we were going to be here last week and we weren't. So sorry about that. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving.
Hey, I think we hedged that one. We had said there was a good chance we weren't going to make it last week.
I think we said there was a good chance we would.
Yeah, but we left it open that we might not be.
Okay, well, we didn't make it out here for the holidays. It's hard to work things out. Yeah. Gary's really busy around holidays.
I'm really busy all the time, but particularly busy now.
Yeah, and I had family in town, which is kind of unusual for Thanksgiving. So,
but nice.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Anyway, we expect to be here next week. I don't know of anything that's.
Yeah. No. As far as I know, we should be good. Yeah.
And I'm not going anywhere for Christmas, so.
Yeah.
We could do a Christmas time-ish.
Christmas podcast. Episode.
Oh, I wonder if G.I. Greg's going to be down. I meant to ask.
And y'all can do a 3-hour long podcast together.
We're not doing that again. Yeah, we're not. We
No
all
more,
got
no more marathon podcast.
no. We all got in trouble for that. Like, yeah, there were people that were really unhappy with us for how that went. Not the podcast itself, but
but the time you spent on it.
the time we spent on it and the time we didn't spend other places.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we want to avoid that trouble
Fair enough.
this time. But if he's in town again, I would like to do a podcast. That's always fun.
Yep.
But we'll see. All right. Well, we'll be back next week unless something weird happens. I've already done the follow us stuff. So yeah, we'll be back next week when we finally get this right. And in the meantime, try to stay free.
Life short, live free.
Ciao.
Later.